top you had a big low orange with 12-inch numbers issued by the Coast Guard, so that aircraft could identify you. No one could out the inlet during the war if you weren't a citizen. Once they found the German subs were being fed from Long Island, no one got out. That means all the guys that owned draggers in Freeport, a lot of Italians and Slavic, could not get out the inlet. I was a teenager, but I was born in this country, so I got an ID. They boarded you every morning and every night. They didn't have enough Coast Guard boats, so they confiscated big yachts, painted them gray, and they anchored them between Short Beach and Point Lookout. And you had to come alongside every morning. They'd go through the boat, the hatches. They had to come alongside every night. And you imagine what those pleasure boats looked like after the draggers were done, pulling alongside twice a day. They lasted about a month each in the inlet. But a lot of people don't remember that you absolutely couldn't get out if you weren't a citizen. This boat is on the beach, which I mean, keep the haul out. You got a bent wheel or a rope in the wheel, you just back it up to the beach. At low tide, you can get under the boat, do your repair. Next tide, she floats off. That's what you used to do. You see all the net reels on the docks? These reels had to take the nets out of the boat to dry them. Nets would rot. You couldn't do that like monofilament can stay in the boat. They had to be up and reeled up. A man would walk the plank in the middle like a gerbil or one of these kids' toys, and the net would come out of the boat. So that's some of the history. The reason I believe the boat could make it, I've seen them carry 4,000 or 5,000 pounds of fish. I've seen them come in the inlet when it was all white water, and it was my feeling after all those years that if I'm going to cross the ocean in a small boat, it's going to be a verity. Now, I wish you guys would ask questions because I can ramble forever, and I don't know which direction you want me to go in. If you've got any questions, yes, please.
What was the weight of those cartridges anyway?
Well, Larry Fester remembers I had an 82-pound cart. Yeah, we didn't know it was that big because we got in late at night, and we were unloading. It happened by accident. One of the guys broke down. He had his lines up about an hour and a half southeast. And he came in and he said, I can't get out to pick up my lines. Will you go in? I said, sure. It's not bad weather. It was February. So I told my wife, I want to take a boat ride. And then we took a 26-foot grove. And she put on a skidoo seat, you know. So as we're picking up the lines, it was a real good set. And stern scuppers are underwater. We're shipping water. And she starts yelling, don't fish, don't pull any more in. I said, you want to do something? Get up in the cabin, drag up the big fish, and get them up in the bunk so we get some weight up there. She did. We had 2,500 pounds that night. And we got in about 10 o'clock at night. And I looked in the cabin. She's laying out sound asleep in a big bed of codfish with her. That's why she doesn't go with me anymore. But Walter's here. Walter's been a good friend of Larry and all. He had a stroke last year. We hope he's going to be better so he can fish. But he had a boat called the Sea Wife, and he fished that for 32 years around here with 6,000 hours on his little 4-cylinder Perkins. So he's one of our originals. Larry was a tough customer. I mean, he was really busted my back. He would have Maven down. You know what a Maven is? A negotiator. Remember his name? Phil Cohen. Phil Cohen. We started out at 25,000. We got the boat for 17,000. But I got a bargain. You know why? I got Chicago. John Fester acquired all of our boats from Menard. And he was a great partner. We went all over. He wanted to go across the ocean with me very seriously. I'll go. He made Larry look like a sissy. So, any more questions? And I know it's late. I don't know. I'm usually in bed by 8 o'clock. But anything I can answer for anybody?
Yeah,
yes.
Would you make a 21-foot outboard?
I think the shortest was a 22. What happens, the mold, as you can visualize, is like a big bathtub. If you want to make a short boat, you'd make a false transom. Just build a plywood transom, shortening up the mold. You paper or something that would release, and you could build a shorter boat. The shorter ones looked really wide. They were all the same width, but being 22 foot, and all of a sudden it looked like a very wide boat. 26s and 28s looked pretty narrow. But I don't think we only bought a couple. The Coast Guard wanted some rule that they had to have a certain length to get by some of their rules, and we did make some short ones. They weren't as good in the sea, nowhere near as good. You needed that extra stern out there.
Thank you.
Yes?
Can you talk about how you made the switch from verity skiffs to groverbuilt?
Well, we wanted an older boat. I wanted a narrow boat, and I wanted, the old-timers couldn't carry as much fish. Dutch's boat, which is one of the biggest verities, was not as good a sea boat, in my opinion, as our 26, because they lost a lot of shear. They built them up much higher, and they made them much wider at the stern. And the wider stern will have a tendency to broach more. There's nothing better than a double ender as far as not broaching. So our 26 was narrow. I found one in Baldwin that was sunk, and the guy is still running a skimmer boat in Freeport, down where Billy Botch's boats used to be. And I said, how much you want for the boat? It was sunk, He said, $100. But I knew the boat. It was Claddy Coleman's boat. It was a real good sea boat. So I said, I'll take it. And he came out, he said, wait a minute, here's the prop, here's the shaft, here's the tiller, here's the deck. I only want the hull. So we hauled it out, and we brought it up to Chris-Craft at the time. They were in Portland, New York. And we were good customers there. I asked them to make a mold for me, which they did. But we brought the boat up, it was full of barnacles and seaweed, and everything had been laying on the bottom. One of the toll takers at the Tappan Zee called his buddies along and said, we found Noah's Ark. You turn the boat upside down, you fair it in, you straighten out all the bumps, and you have to get rid of the tumble home or any curve that will release out of a mold. It's got to have draft or a wedge shape to pull it out of the mold. So if these boats had a nice tumble home in the stern, you had to get rid of that. And they made the first mold for us. But I don't know if that answers your question. It was a 26, and I knew the boat, and I knew that particular model, in my opinion, was a real good sea boat.
Where'd you get the plug for the 28? I forgot.
28 was a faster boat. My nephew Larry, who belonged to the Tuna Club years ago, had the boat. He was fishing it, and it would always be faster than my 26. So I decided, it wasn't a lot bigger, but it had a nicer run of planks, and it had a little more freeboard. But it would also, with the same leman and the same prop, the 28 would run away from the 26 with everything being equal. Just a small difference in the bottom. So we didn't build many 28s. I still think the 26 is better sea boat.
Al, tell us about this gentleman from Baldwin, Whaley, who survived the 1938 hurricane.
Okay.
Where was he, and how did he survive that hurricane?
All right, Verity Moving and Storage in Seaford, on Merrick Road. Austin Verity died maybe a year or two ago. He was in his 90s, 94 years old. I used to go out there to get my trucks weighed and have a big scale in their yard. And he'd always tell me about this guy that had a Verity, and they were off lobstering. If you remember, the hurricane of 38 had no warning at all. And that's why so many lives were lost. So they were off lobstering, and they broke down, and they disappeared. And in the Nassau Daily Review had it in the paper, that was long before Newsday, that they gave up all hope for the Baldwin fishermen. They were lost about a week. And they found them, eventually towed them back to Baldwin, they fixed the engine, and they had survived eating fish and drifting. And that's why I figured when a guy asked me, about crossing the ocean, they want to know how fast I go and how fast their boat is. I said, how does your boat drift? Because when it blows 50, 60, 70 knots, and the seas are breaking, you're going to lie your hull. In other words, you're shut down, you put your engines down for some drag, you might throw over an old automobile tire with a